How long does it take to get fluent with Duolingo? First off, if you look at this, I have an 828-day streak on Duolingo. So I think I'm qualified to talk about this. What Duolingo is great at is creating a habit so that it promotes studying every day, gives you all those notifications. Some I've seen some TikTok videos where guys are like, Duolingo is stalking them because it keeps sending them notifications and things like that. But Duolingo is going to help you study every day because there's two types of memory, right? And I've never, they talk about this all the time, or some books I've read have talked about this all the time, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about the two types of memory, which is the active memory and the passive memory, right? So, what Duolingo is going to help you do is load up your passive memory. Passive memory is basically, it's not your subconscious, but you'll come to a phenomenon, right? Where you're studying and studying, right? And you may not think you're making progress, but your mind is loading up. And then in order to bring your memory to active memory, is you have to use it. And that makes the strong connection right there, right? So Duolingo was good at that one thing. It's gonna help you build up your passive memory. I'm just speculating right here, but I think that Duolingo was built more for when they came out with Duolingo, they had children in mind, right? And so it has a slower pace of learning, right? Whereas some people could consume many or try to memorize many words in one day, Duolingo has a small set. One thing I don't like about it is they start you with learning how to say apple and stuff like that. Apple and dog, unless you're a pet lover or you're a vegan or something like that, which is fine if you are. The next thing to know is comprehension takes time. Understanding what's said to you. Basically, what happens in the beginning, everything sounds like it's all together. It's all jarbled together. You can't really separate words. But after studying some time and you consuming the language and hearing more of the language, right? You begin to be able to words start you start to be able to break up the words into something manageable. You actually train your ears to do it differently. And I think that takes about I say that takes a year, 6 months to a year. If I mean, and you really got to be studying. And the other thing is, don't be embarrassed to speak. I know you don't want to say anything wrong, you don't want to make any grammatical errors, but you're going to. Now, I've been speaking Spanish for, I calculated almost 20 years. I started at 9, I'm 40 now, right? I started at 19 and I'm 40, 41. And yeah, you're still going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen. So you're just going to have to accept that as a fact of life and go with it. And there's not a whole lot you can do about that. But don't be scared to speak to people. You don't like, sometimes you don't like people laughing at you, or people are going to say, because you may not pronounce things correctly, they may not understand you, and they really don't. Processes, but don't be embarrassed. Speak every time. Try. Just, don't worry about it. Throw caution to the wind and just try, because that's what's good. That's where you're going to start learning. What's actually going to happen too, right? Is because if you say something wrong, a native speaker is going to correct you. And you'll be able to, and a lot of words, I know exactly when I met them. I remember, when I learned them, I know exactly the time. There was a certain situation that we were having at that time, situation that that's how you actually build a connection to learning. And this is so important. And that's where I think a lot of people fall because they're embarrassed to speak. Don't be embarrassed. Just do it. And if it comes out wrong, comes out wrong. It's a work in is a journey. It's not something that you arrive at and say, oh, it's over. I mean, you end up having some command of the language. The fact that they're living, when I say living, meaning that there's new vocabulary because new TV shows and things like that come out. Um, and some old vocabulary actually into languages. It's happening a lot with this Gen Z speak. Maybe I'll do a video on that because they think they're doing something new. They're not. They're not. A lot of those words come from culture. Um, we'll get that's a whole nother thing. I don't want to go in, but this is how you actually build connections to the words. Actually going out there and speaking to people. This is just a part of the fact of life. I'm going to tell you what I go through. I had a Puerto Rican guy tell me one time, "You'll never learn. Spanish is too hard. You'll never learn." That's complete BS. Complete BS. If you're dedicated, see, a lot of times people will project their own their own faults on you. So you didn't have what it takes to start to be able to do this or accomplish learning a language. Or, but I mean, he already, but that was his. They spoke in the house. And I mean, I didn't take it, but I see. There's two type of ways that people take that. Some people be like, well, maybe he's right. And my way of thinking of things is, don't believe me, just watch. Another thing that I had to go through. I don't think you guys are gonna have to go through that. There was a thing that because we're going back like 20 years, like your race trading. You heard me right. People tell me, "Oh, you trying over there where I'm from? I'm from New Jersey." They say poppies, right? Oh, you trying to be a poppy? You trying to be a poppy and all that kind of stuff. And, you're gonna because or I listened to that, but I definitely had to go through that. I heard it from a bunch of different people because I would carry around flashcards. There was no Duolingo. There weren't even phones. There weren't even smartphones when I showed you the Duolingo thing, other languages with that. But I wanted to show that out there that I actually am a user, right? Yeah, that told me I was a race trader. You're trying to that culture or whatever. You're always Spanish culture. I just knew, basically how I used to work at a place anymore. But if you remember Radio Shack, right? What happened is a lot of Latinos had came into the area. It was new. It wasn't very many people from there wasn't very many Mexicans, but a lot of Costa Ricans, and we had everything else up in New Jersey, right? And the big thing, it wasn't smartphones yet, but they were. Okay, so my next thing is gonna transition in sponsor of the day, which is Lingota. Improve on your Spanish. You have to study. You have to make a personal study regimen, and then find somebody with a practice. On Lingota, you can hire a teacher for a tutor for one-on-one. Right? They're there to help you. They're not going to make fun of you or act you or anything like that. And you can like-minded people like yourself, and you got in there, and you know anything could happen from there. You can practice together. You guys may end up taking trips together or something like that, right? Some way to practice with somebody. Personal study is a part of the regimen, but you got to practice with somebody, or at least try to talk to somebody. I think the study, right, is after you get the center together, right? After you understand how sentences are structured, learn verbs. Verbs are action words. Verbs are going to allow you to move around the language. So verbs, and find the phrases that you want, because these videos are about, because I started a podcast for Spanish verbs, right? It's going to be in the link below. So you can check it out and, give me a subscribe, donate, it's going to help the work I'm going to do, because I may end up doing 300, ends, right? But I'm at least going to do it 150. Okay, that concludes our video. So come visit me over at linguafile.com. There'll be a link below. Also, shout out to our sponsor. Go over there and get you some, find your tutor, and do your personal study. If you like the work I do, also there'll be a link to buy me a coffee. Anything is appreciated, because this is what I like doing, and I'm gonna keep doing it, and I want to be able to share with people, and you know, and creating content costs money, especially, yeah. So any help will be, I'll be happy to receive. If you don't, thank you anyway. So as always, thank you for your time and attention.